All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Rabbi.
So we're on Daf Yud Beis. So we left off discussing the end. We had a machlokas between Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer in terms of
when
the world was created, when different discussions from discussing when the Mabul took place was another machlokas that was related to the beginning of the world, as to when it was. There was a second month. When did it start? Right? Was it after Tishrei? Was it the month after Nisan? So the Gemara just finishes off the discussion. Tana Rabbanan, almost in the middle of Yud Beis Amud Aleph, probably 10 lines from the top. Chachmei Yisrael Mainim Lamabul Kerev Eliezer. So in the Chachmei Yisrael, when they go ahead and they count back to the Mabul, right? And what it really means is even from the Mabul, when they went back to the creation of the world, when they count the age of the world, it's Kerev Eliezer. It's like the opinion of Rebbe Eliezer. They discuss it from Tishrei, the age of the world. U'tkufa Kerev Yeshua. And when they discuss tkufos in terms of seasons, right? How long each season is, when with the equinox in terms of when it begins, right? Every season is 91 days and then 7 hours and change, right? And so when it begins and when they have to go ahead and also add to that, they calculate from Nisan. And Chachmei Umas Ha'olam and the Chachamim, the sages of the Umas Ha'olam, of the other nations, they Mainin Af Lamabul Kerev Yeshua. They even count in terms of the age of the world, like Rabbi Yeshua. They count back from then. I guess however the Chachmei Umas Ha'olam, they don't count from that now. Now they discuss in terms of the age of billions of years, right? So fine. So they count from like Rabbi Yeshua that it comes from the time of Nisan. Fine, 2 dots. All right, we're on the 2 dots in Yud Beis Amud Aleph. So we said in our Mishnah, we said Echa B'Tishrei Rosh Hashanah. I'm just reading for the Mishnah. L'Shanim, the Shmitin, the Yevlas, the Natiya, the Yerakos. Right, this is the Yerakos is the last one mentioned. So we have a brayso that says the Yerakos, the Maestros, the Nadara. So that the month of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah when it comes to Yerakos, Maestros, and Nadar. So the Yerakos Mani. What's the Yerakos? So Maestro Yerek. So that is the Maestro of Yerek when you take Maestro vegetables. Right, Maestro vegetables is Chayiv. So the verse says I Hainu Maestros. It says over there, right? It says Yerakos Maestros, right? So is the Maestros referring to Maestro Yerek, right? So he says no Tana. The Rabbanim Tana Deraisa. It says the Rabbanim Deraisa. Now, mid Deraisa in the Torah, which is mentioned, the Torah mentions grains. It also mentions, I believe, Zaysim and Anavim, perhaps, right? So those are specifically mentioned when it comes to taking Meiser. What about my tomatoes, right? And those items and those vegetables? Those are only the Rabbanim. The Rabbanim add those to take Meiser from. So one is Deraisa and one is the Rabbanim. Releasing the Raisa Bereisha. So if it's the Raisa, that should come first, right? So my answer is no. Since it's more chaviv, since it's a drasha the Rabbanan, it's more chaviv, therefore it was taught first. So therefore it was taught Yerakos, which is the Rabbanan, was taught before Maisus, which is the Raisa. V'tana Didan. So why is it Tana of our Mishnah list both, right? Our Mishnah only says Yerakos. So our answer is no, Tana the Rabbanan, the Raisa. It means that the Tishrei is the Rosh Hashanah when it comes to Meiser Derabanan, and certainly it's also the Rosh Hashanah when it comes to Meiser Deraisa. I've listened to Meiser. So why is it saying this Brisa Meiser? Not why is it saying Meisros? So Echad Meiser Behema, Echad Meiser Dog. So according to this Brisa, it means one is Meiser Behema, then an animal's born before, right? Consider the previous year, you can't do one year to another. And the other one is referred to Meiser Dagan, right? The Meiser of grains, right? That 1 year to another, you can't go ahead and do it. And we'll soon see a brisa which sort of spells it out. I believe in the Yerek. So you say Yerek, not Yerakos. So Trey Gavne Yerek. There's 2 types of Yerek. Not necessarily when it comes to Meiser, but when it comes from one's obligation to go ahead and basically take Meiser. In other words, at what point is it considered to be not in the field? It's already sort of harvested. The Tanai was learned in the Mishnah. Yerek hanegad mishiyagad. So once a yerek is bound, right? If it's a type of yerek that, nor is the way they usually sell it is in store, right? They bind it together and sell bundles. So once it's in a bundle, that's when it's considered to be sort of the finished product. Now that's when you can no longer sort of snack from there. The shena neged, and something which is not normally bound, it's sort of sell, individual or loose, right? Mishimale yes a kli. In other words, when it fills up the kli of the vessel when they're filling it. So if it's before then, so it's not really harvested yet. You're still out in the fields. You still be officially snacking from it. However, once it's already full in the basket is full. Now it's ready, considered to be harvested. Now, if you want to go ahead and take it from there, you have to go ahead and take meiser from there. Fine. 2 lines from the bottom. Tan Rabban. So now this explains what does it mean the difference. So lika yerek erev Rosh Hashanah. One who goes ahead and he harvests, right? Now, when it comes to vegetables, when you harvest it, now when it grows, when you harvest it, before sun sets, and then one goes back, perhaps the guy goes back, because obviously you can't do malacha, right? And Yontif, then the sun sets, Rosh Hashanah, so Echa B'Tishrei, right? Velikate, right? Mishatava Shabbos, right after the sun set. Ein termin meiser mizel zeh lefi shein termin meiser loy min achodesh al yashin loy min yashin al chodesh. You can't. The two are not in the same category anymore. The one before Rosh Hashanah is from the previous year. The other one that was taken after Rosh Hashanah began is from the new year. And you can't go ahead and say, okay, combine all the stuff and just take a tenth of it. No, the tenths are calculated per the year. If it's already harvested, if it's already plucked, if it's already taken from the stock after into the new year, it has to be part of a new group. It can't be part of the old. Im haisa shnia nichnas l'shlishis or shnia. So shnia ma'aser rishon, ma'aser sheni, shlishis ma'aser rishon, ma'aser an. So now, if let's say the year before Rosh Hashanah was year 2 of the Shemitah cycle, right? 6 year Shemitah, 7 year Shemitah cycle. First 6 years, one does go ahead and give Meiser. Every year there is Meiser Rishon. Meiser Rishon goes to Levi. Meiser Sheni. So that is done on year 1 and 2. And year 4 and 5. Meiser Sheni is basically a person takes the 10th or the next 10th after the first 10th is removed, takes the second 10th and is supposed to take it and go ahead and eat Yerushalayim. He doesn't want to go ahead and schlep it all with a lot of food. Take Yerushalayim. You go ahead and redeem it through money, right? And take that money, Yerushalayim, and spend it in the marketplaces in Yerushalayim. That's called Meiser Sheni.
What is today Meiser Sheni?
The what?
What is today Meiser Sheni? There's Meiser Sheni today?
Yeah.
Where is? What is Meiser Sheni today? What is Meiser Sheni today? I heard that it's the money that you take, you go take it to Israel and you put your children to learn Torah.
Spoken by a true fundraiser. Right?
It's a good one. All right. I just heard it.
So and then in year 3,
that's a good one.
It's not wrong. Yeah. Extra Meiser Sheni money. Right, very good. So he's saying now, in years 3 and 6 is Meiser Ani. So you take the first 10th, goes to the Levi as all the other years, and then the second 10th, instead of being Meiser Sheni, is now called Meiser Ani. Right? This goes to the poor people. So now in year 3, that's what happens. So if Rosh Hashanah is year 2, so therefore the first part, the second Meiser goes to Meiser Sheni, and then the year 3, when Rosh Hashanah begins, that goes to Meiser Ani, and they can't switch one another. And Amar Rabbi Shulman Levi.
Meiser Sheni, they have to,
Why? When you add it?
Only if you're
when you redeem it, right? Not in the beginning, right?
Another 10th. I mean 5th. You're right.
So Levi
4 times a year. I mean 4 times every 7.
Ki sechale la'asar esper. Right. So it says over there. Pasuk says Ki sechale la'asar es kol meiser to asecha or to ascha b'shana ashlishis shnas meiser. So it says over there when you go ahead and you finish, right? When all the grains are finished from the 3rd year, right? It's talking about when the 3rd year is done, right? So it calls it Shnas HaMaser, the year of the Meiser. It doesn't say Meiser, it says Maser. 1. The Shana Shemba Ela Meiser Echad. So we see over here it's only 1 Meiser Echad. Okay, it's that. How is that? So Meiser Rishon, Meiser Ani. So now we're basically teaching the Makor of how do we know that there's no Meiser Sheni in years 3 and 6. So Meiser Rishon and Meiser Ani. right? And therefore it's only Meiser Rishon and Meiser Ani, or Meiser Sheni Yibato. And the Meiser Sheni is not there during year 3 because it only says the Meiser and that which goes to the poor. So Eino Ella Af Meiser Rishon Nami Bato, or maybe it means even there is no Meiser Rishon in year 3. Maybe it's just Meiser Ani. Therefore it says Vel Levim Tadaber B'Martalem Ki Tichu Me'ez B'nei Yisrael As Hamas Asher Nasati Lachem Meitam B'Nachasechem. It says over there, to the Levim you shall speak. So speaking about the Levim, right, who gets the Meiser Rishon, right, that which I gave them for them in their inheritance. So Hikshu HaKosav L'Nachla. So we compare it to a Nachla. Ma Nachla in Lo Hefsek, just like a Nachla doesn't have a Hefsek. A Meiser Rishon in Lo Hefsek. So to a Meiser Rishon does not have a Hefsek. Right, which is funny because there is a hefsek actually during the year of Shemitah, right? All right, I don't know, just hit me now. Fine. Just looking at Rashi. Fine.
The year of Shemitah, they can just go into the field.
Right, but it's just saying that the Meiser Rishon does not stop during the years of Meiser. Meiser Rishon does not stop during the years of Meiser. There's always Meiser Rishon. And Aleph and Tanam B'Hachis similar to learn, right? Because similar proof. Kisakala Lazar B'Chulei, the same pasuk. So Shana Shem Ba'alo Meiser Echad. It only is Shana Meiser Echad. Okay, so it's only Meiser Echad, right? Because it's also Meiser. This is Meiser. So okay, it says Meiser Rishon and Meiser Ani. Therefore, you only give during year 3, you give Meiser Rishon and Meiser Ani, or Meiser Sheni Yibato. So and Meiser Sheni is no longer there. So Yachol Af Meiser Rishon Nami Yibato. You might think also that Meiser Rishon is also no longer there. Tamalim, therefore it says, brings a different pasuk. Ubal Levi calls man Sheba Telo. It means Ubal Levi, when the Levi comes, it means anytime when he comes, then you give him. David Rabbi Yehuda, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So in other words, there's always money, or there's always Meiser to give to the Levi, i.e., even years 3 and 6. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Aimer, no, I don't need that, right? Harei Aimer vel Levim to daber b'mar taliyem kisachum eid b'nei Yisrael as b'asar shiran zadi lechamit benachas. So it says over there, no, we already know that because we know that you always give them because the pasuk says to the Levim, right? You should speak to them. So we compare it to their nachla. So hikshu hakasla nachla, ma nachla in lo hefsek, af meiser rishon in lo hefsek. Just like nachla, there is no hefsek of inheritance. It's always forever. So too, there is no hefsek when it comes to meiser rishon. So therefore, we see that there is always meiser rishon every single year in years 1 through 6. But in years 3 and 6, we stop the meiser sheni because the pasuk only references year 3 has 1 meiser and says give you the meiser and to the ani. So therefore, there's a meiser ani and a meiser rishon. Fine.
If you being a lady, would you go ahead and advertise in the newspaper? Please give me your meiser.
The meiser, yeah. Well, I think there was a takana. I think they were punished, right? It went to the kohana.
No, after the kohana had to be brought to Yerushalayim to be distributed there. He also said the kohanim to get it. No, meiser rishon also. He wanted Yerushalayim to become a central place. He forced everybody to come to Yerushalayim.
How do you decide which lady to give it to? One guy can get 1 million.
Because it went to a central place to be distributed all the Levim there.
Right, I forgot why the Levim were punished. I forgot why. Yeah. All right. So then it says Linadarim. Yeah. So it says Linadarim. So then, so the Brisa mentions Nadarim. What's the talk about? The Rabbanan. Hamayder Hana Mechaver. A person says, I will not get Hana from such a person. L'shana for a year. Then he says, okay, what's today's date? I said, I will not get any hana from John for a year. So I say, what's today's Hebrew date? And I go till next year's Hebrew date. However, if I say this year, even if it's the 29th day of Elul, the last day of Elul, once it becomes to Yom Echad B'Tishrei, also it counts as the year is up. So that's the year. And even according to the who holds that 1 day cannot be a year, it has to be at least 30 days to be a year. That in this case, he would agree. Why? Right? Over here, he was being mistar himself, right? He was like punishing himself. So there was a punishment, right? The punishment was that he couldn't get hana for 7 hours, or whatever it was, until the end of the year, right? So therefore, that is included. So therefore, we see that when this year end, when it makes hana, that is Echad B'Tishrei. Vayim Nisan. What I mean, if he makes the Rosh Hashanah, then once Echad B'Tishrei starts, then that's done. That's the new year. So once it's Vayim Nisan. So B'Nedarim halach achar lashon b'nei Adam. No, by Nedarim you go after lashon b'nei Adam, and most people refer to the new year as Tishrei, as the beginning of the year, as opposed to Nisan. And Taran Hasam So you learn over there, so Hatilson Mishatitzmach, right? When the fenugreek, when does that become grown? Fenugreek, right? When it becomes so plant, right? It goes in the ground. When it sprouts, and hatvua v'hazesim and grains and olives mishayaviu shlish. Once they come forward, they grow a third. So my mishatimsach. What does it mean when they sprout? Right? When the seeds begin to sprout into the ground. And hatvua v'hazesim mishayaviu shlish. Then we said that the grains and the olives, when they come forth by a third, right? They grow a third. From where do you know this from? So Amar Rav Asim Rabbi Yechlan. Some say it was Matubay Mishmei Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Some say it was stated the name of Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Omar Akra, the pasuk says, "Miketz Sheva Shanim b'Moed Shnas Hashmita b'Chag HaSukkos." It says that at the end of 7 years, right? On the holiday, Shnas Hashmita b'Chag HaSukkos, during Shmita Chag HaSukkos. Now, what do you mean? Shnas Hashmita. Some Avidas say, right? What are we talking about? That's during the Sukkos, right? At the end of the 7 years, the Sukkos which follows it, right? Because Shemitah is over, right? Rosh Hashanah time. Then there's Sukkos. So why is it calling it over there that the Sukkos in Shnas Shemitah? My video does say, right? It should be in the 8th year, right? Because we're talking about it's right after the 7 years, at the end of the 7 years. Anything that grew to at least a third in Shvi during Shemitah, let's say Rosh Hashanah. So then you treat it even in the 8th year like the 7th year. In other words, that when Sukkot rolls around and something already grew to the point, right? It's still considered to be from last year, from Shemitah, and not from already the new year.
No, but only the first 3 months of the year, right?
What?
Only the first 3 months.
No, not 3 months. When it grows a third, when it grows, when it already begins to grow a third.
Oh, a third of
the further growth. Right.
Of the produce.
Right. Yeah. What's the question?
It's just Minani Mili.
Right.
What was the?
So Minani Mili.
Wasn't that on the shlish? How do they know when it gets to a shlish?
Right. Yes. How do we know that? Right.
How does this answer?
So why is it talking about sukkahs during Shnasa Shemitah?
I understand that.
Right.
Is it on the measurement of 1/3?
You're saying, so how do we know 1/3 versus a quarter? Yeah. We'll get there in a minute. Right. So what we do see there is something that already grew at some point during the Shemitah year is now considered, even though by Sukkot's time, right? If it grew a certain amount of 30 by Sukkot's time, it's right. So we know that's already ready to go. It's still considered to be part of the year 7. So I'm there, the Dilma Leah Klal, right? Maybe it means. Right, it's referring to something that didn't get grow at all. Right, the Kamar Rachmana Tisham and the Torah is telling you a different shot, telling you that you should treat it right with Shemitah until Sukkot, right, another 2 weeks. The Gemara says no, Lai Sukkot. The pasuk says the Chag Ha'asif B'Tzeis Hashanah. It says the Chag Ha'asif, the gathering at the end of the year. Samay Asif. What does it mean gathering? If it's talking about referring to the holiday that comes during this Zman Asifa, it says we already know that. It says sometimes when you're gathering out in the field. Elamai Asif. Katzir means when you're harvesting. The Kimlu Rabbanan. Now this is your answer to your question, Azi. Right? The Kimlu and the Rabbanan had a Masorah, right? An understanding, right? Anything that is already ripened to be harvested during the holiday of Sukkot, right? 2 weeks later. Biadua, they know Shaviu Shlish Lifnei Rosh Hashanah. The Kokarele, but says Hashanah, and therefore already grew a third, right? Already grew a third before Hashanah, and therefore it's already going to be ripe and ready to be harvested during right. So the final 2/3 take 2 weeks, right? Just a Kabbalah, they have some right. It's a Kim L'Hul Rabbanan that and therefore they know that they grew already a third before Hashanah. Therefore they call it the end of the year because it's part of the previous year because it already grew a third. In other words, if it's already ready to be harvested on Sukkot 2 weeks after the new year started, then you know it already grew a third. If it wasn't ready to be harvested, right? Then it's not yet the third. Then it then grow a third for the previous year, and then it can be treated as year 8. All right, we'll stop here. We will continue.